Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining the call. As Esther has mentioned, we are recording this session. Hope everybody can hear me clearly. We're going to talk about Microsoft 365, specifically around security and data protection and workflow, and how that operates within the NGO space. My name is Hasmukh Chudasama. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I look after the East and Southern Africa region for BUI. Who is BUI? It's a South Africa headquartered company with offices in the UK, US, and Kenya, and very, very focused on cloud and security. It's about 20-year-plus old company, as I mentioned, founded in South Africa, and these are some of the milestone moments. Part of the first technology group, lots of accolades from Microsoft. We launched Cyber SOC in 2019. You will see offices in the US 2018, the UK 2020, and in 2021. There was an acquisition in Kenya of a company called M2M Systems. Some of you may be familiar with that. M2M is a 7-year-old company in Kenya, which was acquired by BUI, and we operate as M2M Systems, but we are part of the BUI operation within the region. Very strong, as I said, in the security space and the collaboration space and Azure, everything to do with Azure infrastructure. Some of the achievements: Azure Partner of the Year, Security Partner of the Year, Modern Work Partner of the Year. We are a member of MISA, Microsoft Intelligence Security Association, which is a by invitation membership. And we are 27001 ISO certified information security, something that we are very proud of, which happened late last year. Some of our competencies, you will see data, AI, digital, security, Azure, business apps, and cloud. Just to elaborate a little bit more on that area, everything to do with adoption and change management in the cloud. So for example, trainings, how do we empower users? How do we provide end user trainings? Teams calling is a big area. Teams collaboration, how does workflow happen around Teams? And securing and modernizing your endpoints. So everything to do with information protection. For example, in Kenya today, the Data Protection Act is very powerful. And I think more and more people are beginning to understand what is its impact in our workspace. We're going to talk a little bit about that to demystify some of those areas. Good. I'll pass this on to a gentleman called Kelvin, who is I call him our data protection officer because he's very passionate about information protection. He's going to take us through some of the areas that he focuses on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Hasmukh. All right, so I'll be taking you through the data protection side of it and how you can be able to utilize Microsoft Purview to be able to identify and protect the sensitive data that you have as an organization. So as we know, data is really increasing around the world, and organizations are continuously collecting these sensitive data all over. And with the increase in the sensitive data that you are collecting as an organization, it also raises concerns around the privacy that you are putting to make sure that you are also protecting this data that you are collecting. And thus also governments around the world are coming up with these different regulations that want to make sure that we must comply with, to make sure that we put the measures in place that are required in these different regulations. So when in the process of making sure that you are complying with these regulations, we also have the different challenges that we may face in this implementing the required actions in these regulations. But first, we can start by identifying some of the risk that comes with not being compliant. So these regulations, for instance, if you talk about the GDPR or even the country-specific regulations that you might have as an organization, they normally come with the risk and the fines that might be imposed to you as an organization in case you're not found to be compliant. So when you talk about the fines, other than the fines, you also have the loss of trust and the reputational damage. In the case that you're involved in a data breach, that is something that will be announced in the news. And as an organization, you don't want to be the talk of the town such that people are just talking to say that this organization was involved in a certain breach and they are not taking measures to make sure that they are protecting the sensitive data that we are collecting as an organization. When trying to focus on complying and making sure that you are not in the risk of these penalties, there are also the challenges that we face an organization in terms of trying to be compliant. And according to the recent study by Gartner, it shows that protecting and identifying this sensitive data has proven to be the topmost challenge among the organizations. And no wonder that 88% of organizations no longer have the confidence that they can be able to protect and prevent the loss of this sensitive data that they collect. But again, the question that rises is, why exactly is this data security such a challenge for most organizations? So as you know, in the past, communication was purely or majorly relying on just email communication and document sharing. But in the recent and the modernization that you are seeing and the hybrid working, we see now communication in the corporate world moving outside the email and the document sharing. We move now to the instant communication, sharing of images, and even utilizing now the upcoming third-party storage that we use. And even now with the hybrid, we see our employees utilizing the bring their own devices, which now they can be able to utilize to access the corporate data in their personal devices. So with this increasing data landscape, that means as an organization, we need to put in the measures to make sure that all our corporate data, all the sensitive data that we are required to protect according to the regulations, we are able to protect them and we can be able to make sure that organization is compliant with what is required. So with the challenge that we have covered, you should actually fear not, because we have a solution that can be able to take you through the end-to-end compliance journey from the start. So Microsoft Purview is a really simple and integrated solution in that you just log into one single portal and you can be able to get all the different solutions that will walk you through the end-to-end journey in terms of making sure that you're complying with these different regulations. So other than the integration and the simple portal that you'll be able to benefit from, Microsoft has also incorporated the intelligence capability to this solution. So you'll also be able to benefit from the machine learning capability that will be able to assist organization in terms of applying this data classification and preventing the loss of your data in your organization. So with that, I'll just take you through a brief overview of the Purview solution so that you can get to experience exactly how it works. So basically, the solution for the data protection that Microsoft has offered is known as the Microsoft Purview. And as we said, it's really a simple solution. You just access it by visiting the browser, typing in the compliance.microsoft.com, and it will take you now to the Purview solution. So to start with, where the topmost where you're supposed to start as an organization is to first understand what you're supposed to implement as an organization. So for instance, if the topmost priority in terms of compliance for you is the GDPR, so you can benefit from the assessment that are provided in the Microsoft Purview, which will assist you in guiding you through the compliance journey. So the assessment will come with the improvement actions that you're supposed to implement as an organization, and even the journey that you are. So you can be able to actually track the percentage where you are in terms of compliant. And when you go to the improvement actions, you can be able to understand what you're supposed to implement as an organization. So as you know, these regulations, they normally tend to be somehow in the legal terms, but Microsoft has created this assessment that simplifies those legal terms to a way that anybody can be able to understand what is required to be implemented. So any regulations that you need, you'll be able to get it from here and you can start to implement. And the good thing about these regulations also is that this assessment will be able to test and automatically test what you have implemented in an environment and tell you whether you have attained what is supposed to be implemented of you in terms of the regulations that you want to pick. So the implementation will be able to be performed automatically against your environment, and you'll be able to be notified whether you have done it correctly or you have not done it well. So after you have understood the regulations that you need to comply with, we now need to put in the measures that are required in these regulations. So for that, we'll start with the protecting the information that we collect as an organization. So as an organization, you're supposed to protect the sensitive data that we collect. And for that, we start with the information protection section side of it. So the information protection will now give you the capability to create labels that you can use to deploy to your users so that they can be able to apply these labels to their sensitive and all the documents that you need to the labels to be applied to. And also the good thing about these sensitivity labels provided is that they come also with an option for encryption. So for this, at least you'll be sure that even if your data is involved in an accidental leak, the data will be encrypted just due to this encryption capability, and no one else outside the organization will be able to acquire and read the sensitive data that you have as an organization. Another benefit that you'll benefit as an organization is the artificial intelligence capability that will be able to automatically identify the sensitive document that you want in your organization and apply the protective measures that you want using the auto-labeling capability. So after you have implementing these protective measures, we now implement the preventive measures. So for that, we utilize the data loss prevention policies. So you can be able to create the DLP policies still with the tenant to be able to prevent now the accidental or the intentional spillage of the data that you have as an organization. So when you come to the DLP policies, you can be able to target the channel of communications that are majorly used in your organization. So this can be maybe users are sending out sensitive information via Teams or even via emails. So you can be able to target those online environments. And also the good thing about the DLP policies in Microsoft Purview, you can even target non-Microsoft environments. So for that, if your users are using their laptops, you can be able to onboard their computers to the solution and be able to target the transfer and monitor the sensitive communication. So you can come up with rules that will be able to block those now uploading of sensitive information, maybe to the personal storage, to third-party cloud storage and all that. So you'll not just be focusing on what is in Microsoft 365, but you can now extend to the third-party cloud storage that you have still with the solution. So after you have implemented the protective and the preventive measures, we also have now to consider what is required of us to manage the data that we have in the organization. So for that, we'll move to the data lifecycle management. So basically the data lifecycle management is now the solution that will enable you to comply to the regulations that require you to delete the data that you don't need as an organization. So we know these privacy regulations like the GDPR and most country-specific regulations, they require you to automatically or permanently delete some sensitive information after a period of time. So the data lifecycle management solution is what now will assist you in achieving this regulatory requirement. So you can be able to create the sensitivity, the record labels that you can now apply to the content that you want. Sometimes if you need your content to be deleted after, you can just create the labels and apply to the content that will need to be deleted. Again, as we know, this might be somehow tedious because as an organization, you have lots of data that needs to be protected. But also for that, there's also the capability to actually automate this process. So you can be able to create policies that will be able to identify based on the information that you give. So for instance, if it's the personal information that you collect, you can be able to create an automated solution that will be able to identify this sensitive information that you have collected, apply the retention label and retain the document, and automatically delete after the required amount of time. And again, you don't have to worry that the solution will automatically delete all the documents that you have. You also have the capability to put in a disposition review such that someone will be able to verify that indeed this information should be deleted from our tenant before it gets deleted. So as you can see, the solution is really simple. Just within one Purview portal, you can be able to walk through the end-to-end journey and make sure that your organization is complying with this regulation just from one stage here. And with that, I'll stop it from there in terms of the data protection, and I'll hand it over to Gilbert Ngetich, who is our certified cybersecurity architect expert, to take you through now the security side of it. Over to you, Gilbert.
All right, thank you, Kelvin, and everyone for your time for this webinar. I hope everyone can see my screen, and I'll take you through the Microsoft 365 Security. And so I hope everyone is familiar with this interface that I've shared here. And so when it comes to defending against, let's say, cyber attacks, we must consider the growing complexity of our digital estate, right? You have everything like spread all over, where you have the personal devices and like corporate owned devices, data, like how can you bring all these into one dashboard? So the question is, how do we think about our assets, right? And then what let's say must we divine and also defend against, right? So organizations find themselves responsible for protecting now the crisscrossing web of technologies, applications, devices, and all those you may not own, right? Such like for example, the personal devices accessing your corporate data. You don't have ownership of those devices, systems, and also devices from partners or your donors. Those applications they are using there, how can you ensure that your data accessed by corporate, your partners and donors remains protected, whether they are in or outside the organization. Then now, Microsoft security capabilities comes in hand to help you consolidate this into one dashboard. So taking together all of those trends that I've outlined, we come with a shared challenge to IT security. Fortunately, there is a way forward to the future of cyber security in the cloud. So one way how Microsoft helps you to achieve end-to-end security is taking an approach of zero trust. Here, taking a holistic approach across all of the solutions areas and unlock your security potential. And it enables, for example, what we call a robust zero trust strategy. In this, you have these three principles. The first one being verify explicitly. Here, never trust, right? Always verify. So before you give access to a user or a device, ensure that you always verify before granting that access. If it doesn't meet your policies or criteria, then you can deny access or limit access. For example, have you enabled multi-factor authentication before you are given access, whether you are an internal user or an external user? We have the second one is use a least privilege access. Here, you only grant access to people only when they need it. Okay, for as long as they need it, and also for a specific task at hand. So here you're taking advantage of what we call the just in time, and also just enough access. You are moving from permanent rights assignment to only what we call just in time when you need it. Once you are done performing the task, the rights are revoked. So it ensures that at any point an attack happens, then that account compromised or device has no admin rights to your resources. The second, the third principle here is always assume breach. Never trust, always assume breach. So in this case, always expect that there is a breach that can occur or it has occurred. And in this case, you always remain vigilant. And in this case, that vigilant mindset helps you to be proactive. So you can minimize and also prevent that lateral movement rather than being reactive. So with taking the assume breach model, you are always remaining proactive, right? Ensuring that all the time you have to authenticate before you are given that access. And then, so Microsoft now 365 comes in our 4 areas. That is identity and access management, threat protection, information protection, and cloud security. And so Microsoft weaves this built-in experience, intelligence, and also integration into the security technology offered. And so this shows up in these 4 broad areas. And indicated here, the first one is identity and access management. And because we know most breaches begins with compromised passwords. This is the single weakest link in most security, right? Also with threat protection here is that high volume of data and alerts, as well as the increasing sophistication of malwares out there, and the impact of the attacks. Okay, in this case, Microsoft prioritized the integration and also automated threat protection to help meet the demand of those advanced and sophisticated cyber space. All the information protection is that Microsoft ensures that you always prevent those sensitive data wherever it lives or travels being accessed by any user using any device, as my colleague mentioned on the use of the Microsoft Purview. Now, we are moving from the traditional IT environment to now cloud. What happens when organizations move their data from the on-prem environment to the cloud, or you might be having a hybrid or a multi-cloud? So in this case, Microsoft now comes in with the Microsoft 365 capabilities to help you govern and also protect your cloud environment. It doesn't matter which cloud that you are running on, right? One of the capabilities that is available to achieve that end-to-end protection is the conditional access feature. So what is conditional access here is that just take this way, that it's always critical to provide access only to the right people in the right place, and also with the right resource using a secure device. So what happens here is conditional access capability or a feature here takes signals, either coming from a certain location or from a certain user or an application device or real-time risk. That's either the user risk or sign-in risk. And then it verifies that signal and make a decision either to allow or put that user to another step of proving the MFA, the multi-factor authentication, or by limiting access depending on that signal, or blocking access depending on that signal. Or if you pass through the, let's say, for example, the MFA, then you are given access to a corporate resource. Okay, so this is an intelligent policy built in for the Microsoft 365 environment, and you are able to extend. Let's say you have some on-prem applications running. Those, so long as they support, let's say, for example, you want to involve the MFA in those, you are able to onboard the environment and you can push those policies to your environment. So the reason why Microsoft always emphasize on the conditional access policy is that you move from traditional way of rolling out securities to a fluid or a flexible way of implementing, for example, the MFA. Just with the signals, then you turn on MFA or limit access to that resource. So this is one of the critical and also very powerful feature that you can take out of your Microsoft 365 security features. And then when it comes to identity protection, Microsoft has this capability to help you intelligently detect and respond to compromised accounts, right? So this helps you providing that ongoing risk detection and remediation of those suspicious user accounts. What happened if an account is flagged as a compromised account? Do you have to log in and perform the action? Here you are moving from reactive to a proactive approach. So identity protection here keeps you informed 24/7 of a suspicious user and those sign-in behavior in your environment. So it's an intelligent way of detecting that this is a compromised account. Either suspend the account until the user enter multi-factor authentication, right? So if you meet the multi-factor or if you go through the multi-factor authentication successfully, then your account is reactivated. Otherwise, it will remain blocked. So it's an automatic response that proactively prevent those compromised identities from being abused, right? And then, so we have also the identity governance. And I've seen many organizations struggling on how to manage the user, let's say, life cycle. Okay, all the way from joining the organization, how that user should be given access, what kind of rights has to be given. So Microsoft Identity and Governance helps you effectively manage and also control access rights, right? So here it's important to have a comprehensive identity governance solution to ensure that the right user at the right time has access to a given resource. Now, let's say, for example, as a new joiner comes in, you don't have to give all the permissions, but as the time goes by, you access the progress and you add those permissions. Also, towards the end of the contract, then now you can revoke. So you have a way of defining this policy using the identity and governance in your Microsoft 365 security capabilities. And so with this built in, for example, the Azure AD, you can protect and also monitor and audit access throughout the user lifecycle in your environment. And then you can either renew the access or revoke completely. That's the benefit and the power of identity and governance. Also, you have your assets. Assets here could be the users, it could be those devices, that's the endpoints, the applications, and also data. So Microsoft has integrated all the threat and intelligence and protection capabilities into one platform. And so once you do write fully the configurations in your environment, you are able to have your identity, your endpoints, apps, and data communicating using the Microsoft Defender for Identity, in this case, the Azure the Azure Active Directory, and the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, protecting against identities. Also, you have the Intune and the Microsoft Defender for Endpoints, helping you protecting your devices. It could be rolling out the antiviruses, checking on the vulnerability in your network, all those with the capability of the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And then Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, I normally take it as a firewall, whereby you are able to have a visibility of what's going on, which applications are users accessing. Like, for example, they have like those open source collaboration platforms. Then as the admin or at the management level, you're able to interpret the report and like come up, let's say, for example, why are people not using Microsoft Teams for collaboration and rather using a different solution? Then you can come up with it. It could be the trainings or workshops for them to appreciate the capabilities that are there that the company or the organization has invested. Also, on the data that my colleague mentioned about the Microsoft Purview, you are able to protect and have control of your data. Coming in, sitting in an environment, going out, you have that monitoring capability. And also the Microsoft Defender for Office, that helps you now with the impersonation, email phishing, among others. So what Microsoft, which still I'll show you on the demo, is they have come up with a Microsoft Defender for 365 Defender that integrates all this into one dashboard, and you get that experience. So having all this, the identity and access management, threat protection, information protection, cloud security in place, how can you monitor or track changes? Where can you have that visibility on what you have made? Where are you? Then now the Microsoft security, a secure score comes in place. And so the question is, what is Microsoft secure score? And I'm not sure anyone in the call here have been interacting with the secure score daily or weekly, or how do you normally use Microsoft secure score? So Microsoft secure score here, it's as I can say a numerical summary of your security posture, what you have achieved based on, it could be the system configurations or user behavior, it could be other security related measurements that you have in place. And it gives you that percentage on what you have done or what has been achieved, and also a recommendation on what you need to do. So what you need to understand is that it's not an absolute measurement of how likely, let's say, your system or organization or data will be breached. Rather, it shows that those advanced measures that you have taken. So let's say if you are at 100, doesn't mean that you will not get compromised. Or if you are at 40, or 20%, it doesn't mean that you are likely to be compromised. It shows what you have done. Right? So let me quickly take you to a demo environment to appreciate these capabilities. So how do you access the Microsoft Defender Center? Is by going through the security.microsoft.com. And here you will land up in this dashboard. It might not be the same depending on what you have bookmarked. So you can customize yours depending on what you need. So in this place here, we have the incidents and alerts. So once you have devices reporting the dashboard here. And this is something that we normally do for organizations, is ensuring that all the Microsoft Defender suites are integrating and communicating in one in unison. So in this case, now alerts are being pushed into the dashboard here, and you can see those incidences. You are able to filter depending on for how long do you want to see the incidences. And in our case here, we can see one of them could be one sprayed password spray. This is like an account, someone out there trying to get into the account, and you are able to investigate. You have a very nice map that shows the linkage between that user, which IP address, and even also the assets that were affected, and you can perform the remediations here. This one example, it depends also on your complexity of your environment. And then, so the dashboard here also has a very nice feature on the vulnerability management. So what this one does is it accesses your entire network, your on-prem environment, your cloud environment, and shows the report. In this case, I like spending much time on the weaknesses. So the weaknesses here shows those applications running, softwares running in your network. And then you're able to tell, like, why do I have this kind of software in my environment? So you can search. And in this case, I have 1,000 of softwares running or used by users in my network. And then now, out of this, you are able to tell, like, at what level are you? Are you likely to get compromised? Because if I have this certain or specific software, where is the source of this software? And then you can respond to this. I mentioned about secure score. This now shows feasibility of your environment. What percentage? In this case, we have 49.19 scored. And then it's spread across the pillars. In this case, I have identity, data, devices, and applications. And then which one has the lowest? In this case, I have not done much work on the data. Also, we have recommendations. So this forms like the foundation of your zero trust maturity journey. What you need to do, the recommended action, the score impact. So in case you achieve this, you are done with this, the system scans whether you have enabled multi-factor for all the admins, and then it gives you a certain percentage. And also it shows the product that you need to show, and it tells you whether you have the license or not. In this case, I have the right license. That's why I mentioned that this is like a foundation for you. This is the action that you need to do using which product. Do you have the license? It's yes. So always take advantage of a secure score. And also we have the metrics and trends. So this one does like a peer-to-peer comparison. What other organization related to yours? Like in this case, what other non-profit organizations are doing, and at what level are they? And then you can measure yourself against, and it shows that improvements, right? So all this correlates when you have done proper integration of your environment, which we are happy to help you on this journey. We have also what we call Microsoft Entra. So for you, this is where now you access or administer those permissions, right? How do you move from permanent assigning of rights to a now eligible assignment of rights? And in this case, you go to entra.microsoft.com, and it will lead you to this dashboard. And then so you have the dashboard here grouping those related items in that order. So, for example, how do you now configure conditional access policy to help you achieve the multi-factor authentication for all admins in this case? So you will go to the same entra.microsoft.com and then under protect and secure, this where now you have your conditional access policies. So you have the option to select the policy and now create your policy by putting those signals. If you want to access our organization, you need to complete MFA. We have also identity protection. And in this case, it shows a report of those compromised users, all those by turning on the policies. You have the user risk policy, the sign-in policy. What happens if Gilbert tries to key in wrong password 3 times or 4 times? You can say from that person to re-enter MFA or reset the password, right? Also, on the identity and governance, instead of you having to just go to the dashboard, look for that user and give global admins, you can take advantage of the identity and governance. You have the entitlement capability here where you can give those rights, access to resources. You have the lifecycle workflow where you can now define the contract for Gilbert all the way from the start all the way to the end. And you are able to administer that on the identity and governance. You have the BIM, which is very, very important. Removing, rolling out what you call the just in time. Only when Gilbert wants to create a user is given global admin. You can say, okay, I want the admin, the IT team to approve those, or you want specific people, or what we call the self-approval, where I need to log in and approve. Otherwise, I'll not be given those rights. So there are a lot of capabilities that you can take out of your Microsoft 365 licenses that we are happy as a BUI to take you through that journey. And I think I'll end at this point and hand over to my colleague, that is Dennis Kingori, who is our certified Microsoft Associate Technical Consultant, to take you through the workflow and automation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the session, and I hope my screen is visible. As Gilbert has mentioned, I'll be taking you through business process automations and workflow. And we have one key scenario that we will be showcasing. We are showcasing the fundraising and engagement. And what this platform helps you do is modernize your engagement so that you're able to increase your mission impact. So at the center, at the dashboard screen, we have very immersive dashboards that help us get to see an overview of our data. And we have very different types of information that we actually being able to visualize from the screen. So for instance, at the center, I'll just pop this up. At the center of my screen, we have gift by primary designation dashboard and visualization. So it basically tells us what sorts of campaigns that we're actually running internally and what are the contributions against each campaign. So for instance, we have Tanzania Health Center, and we're actually now able to drill down and get more information about this particular campaign. So for instance, I would like to maybe see the donor contribution against this particular campaign. So where is this $170,000 actually coming from? Who were the key stakeholders who or key sponsors who actually chipped in for this particular campaign? So I'm able to actually filter out by the attributes, the metadata that I actually have from within the system. And the platform will actually now sort of visualize for you this piece of information. So I'm actually able to see that Gabriela Morales and Kelly Lee actually chipped in, and this is their contribution from these particular sponsors. We are actually also able to showcase to you where this data is actually coming from. So where we're actually getting these figures. And you'd find that it's actually looking up on the entities that we have to our left. So the entities could be our contacts and our accounts. A contact could be the primary person that you're actually talking to within an organization. And the account could be the organization. This is maybe the sponsor, the cohort that you're actually working with. I'll go back to the default tab. And we're actually able to see other metrics. So for instance, to our far right, we have donations by opportunity manager. So internally, as a staff member, and I have key accounts that I look after, I would like visibility in terms of how am I actually faring. And from this dashboard, you're actually able to get that sort of report. And you can actually, similar to what we've done before, you can actually drill down to a specific piece of information that you may be interested in. And the dynamics, fundraising, and engagement will actually help you visualize and get insights from this data. So an account manager, and I'd maybe like to see how my specific accounts are actually faring. So I can see that I have 2 accounts that I'm looking after. And this is how they are faring in terms of my revenue or my expected revenue from those accounts. You'd find that with the fundraising and engagement, our aim here is to actually help you impact and have an impact more effectively in your particular space. So for instance, we have different out-of-the-box dashboards that help you sort of have visibility around what the organization is doing in terms of their fundraising activities, their campaigns. And I'll maybe just show you what the fundraising overview sort of dashboard would look like. And you'd find this is actually out of the box. So not too many configurations actually needed to get this started. And it actually helps you go to business or go to production quite quickly. So you find that I'm actually able to see the gifts per month on a year timeline. So you could tell that on the month of November 2020, we actually got the highest sort of gifts from our sponsors at 120,000. You can also see the distribution per campaign. So for instance, we can see the estimated revenue at the middle of our screen. So for each campaign, we can see the estimated revenue. This is now in orange, and in blue, we can see the total revenue that we actually collected. So all these visuals help you get insight into how you actually running the organization and the processes that are actually within the organization. I'll finally take you to one last report, and this is the campaign and marketing dashboard. And this generally gives you visibility in terms of how are you actually engaging with your sponsors, your cohorts on a social level or on social media. So we could tell that we're actually able to filter this out. So we can filter this out to a specific campaign. So for instance, I'll say Change for Children. And we're actually able to see in terms of social conversations, how did we actually reach out to our sponsors, our stakeholders. And you'd find that in this case, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are the common platform that we're actually channeling this sort of communication to. Apart from the out-of-the-box reports that you get, you can actually tap to this data using Power BI. And Power BI is, maybe just to give it some context, is actually a Microsoft solution for data visualization. and you find that you're actually able to connect to different data sources, be it on-premise data sources, Excel files, static files, or even from different cloud providers. You're actually able to connect to all these data sources and create dashboards. So by using or leveraging Power BI, you're actually able now to sort of come up with a high level or even more customized dashboard. And for instance, we can see on our landing page, we're actually giving you an overview of what to expect inside the report. And for each section, we're actually giving you some background information about what this dashboard is actually trying to visualize and communicate to you. So you'd find that in this case, we are looking at the impact delivered. And basically, this just gives you an overall of how you're actually faring in terms of revenue against each program. So we can see at a global scope, and the filters are actually interactive. So if you do select an option, then the filters will actually sort of filter out and give you the particular search query that you're interested in. So you're actually able to take it a level further. If you need more customizable reports or dashboards, you're actually able now to tap into Power BI, and you can now customize your dashboard and have at least a visually immersive dashboard that will help you communicate better to the stakeholders. So that brings me to the end of my session. I would like to pass this over to Ronald. Ronald is an IT officer at World Food Program, and we've done we've had previous engagements with him, and I would like to give him a chance to take you through his section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and previous presenters. My name is Ronald Odhiambo, as Dennis has said. I'm from World Food Program. I'm an IT solutions officer there. So basically, my work is to try and find solutions for the organization. So once again, good morning, everyone. I'm excited to have this opportunity to share with you how WFP was able to automate an e-archiving solution with the help of BUI. Other than that, BUI also transferred the Power Up skills that we needed and actually dedicated Dennis, who was at our beck and call for assistance. Before we partnered with BUI, we were facing significant challenges in managing our large volumes of documents. I mean, we had over 4 million documents that we had to scan, for this process. And we have a big warehouse somewhere in Mlolongo where we stored all these tons of documentation. So our manually archiving process was tedious, it was error prone, and basically it lacked a proper workflow. So we knew we needed a solution that would allow us to streamline this process, improve accuracy, and ensure that our documents are secure and easily accessible. Because each and every time someone needed a document, they'd all have to drive all the way to Mlolongo because we are in Gigiri. Then you go manually searching for a document. I mean, it was 2-3 days affair. So we thought of, we researched and we were like, yeah, we really need to automate this. But internally, we lacked that expertise. We didn't have sufficient skills to pull this up. So we decided we wanted a quick turnaround. So we were like, yeah, we'll go out there and find a company that can do this. So we sent out a request for proposal, and BUI emerged as the best in value. So we worked closely with BUI, and they worked closely with us to understand our archiving needs, and they developed, or rather they helped us develop an archiving solution that basically was tailor-made to our specific requirements. They also pointed us out to the right Power Apps training, because it was more of a knowledge transfer than I would say they were developing it. Yeah. So BUI worked closely with us to understand our needs, and yeah, I would say so. So BUI implemented this automated e-archiving system that enabled us to store and manage our electronic documents securely and efficiently. The system has allowed us to create automated workflows that would archive our documents based on specific criteria. So we have different file types, we have sort of folders, you know, and it has permissions that some people are allowed to access. So we created all this together with BUI. The beauty is also it provides real-time access to our archived documents and making it easy to retrieve documents anytime. Moreover, I would say BUI has provided us with excellent training and support for Power Apps development. We are able to, currently we are creating other business applications just from the knowledge they imparted to us, yeah? And we are automating other processes in the organization. We also, we had access to Hasmuch all the time, you know, as the overall project lead. Dennis, thank you, Dennis, our Power Apps expert, and Kelvin was the security specialist. And Esther, our account manager, although she left us a little bit to go populate the earth. Yeah, congratulations once again, Esther. Yeah, with the automated archiving system and Power App skills in place, we're able to significantly reduce the amount of time and resources required for archiving and other processes. The system has streamlined our e-archiving processes, or rather our archiving processes, as they completely eliminated manual errors and increased our productivity. In conclusion, I would say the partnership between WFP and BUI is a great success. The archiving solution has helped us develop, along with Power Apps training and support, and transformed our document management process and help us improve our services. I would say we are very grateful for the expertise, professional, and dedication to ensuring our success. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Ronald. I left to populate the earth. Yes, so team, thank you so much for joining us. I see that we had asked a couple of questions, and thank you for also engaging with us in terms of data. Where do you know if where your data is residing, and is it safe? I see a lot of people have responded that they're currently not sure where the data is. And we also see, and when it comes to multi-factor authentication, that most organizations are not sure which users have multi-factor authentication, or it might also not be implemented in the organization fully. So you see, in terms of security and also in terms of your Power Apps and automation, these are things that you already have the capabilities with your Microsoft licenses. So what we are saying to you is we will be very interested to just come into your environment, have a conversation with you, see where your needs are, and just to see what we can start with depending on your schedule for the year. We can come in and just help you with either of the 3 sections or all the 3 sections, just depending on where you are as an organization. And thank you so much for your time. I see we have we're just on the we've exceeded the time with a minute, but in case anyone has a question, I will be able to reach out to you directly, but you can also get this chance to just ask any question or also get to interact with us. We are here. Thank you. I don't know, team, anyone else who has a comment? Yes, Gordon.
Good morning, and thank you for the presentation. Well presented. I just have a quick question for NGOs. Some of us in the NGO sector largely depend on donor funding. So I'd like to find out how the costing is done rather around these solutions, because sometimes what is prohibitive is basically the cost, and there are multiple or multifaceted solutions that need to be implemented. Therefore, there should be a cost attached to each particular section of implementation, if I may say it like that. So how do we manage the cost implication in order to have the relevant solutions that have been presented today? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for that, Gordon. So majorly you'll find that with Microsoft licensing, you do get a very huge discount for just purchasing the licenses with Microsoft as compared to the commercial licenses. The second bit, let's say you have already purchased the licenses, but now you'd like us to come in and help you with a service, like let's say what we did for World Food Program, just helping you with your data and also automation. So that is something that as BUI, we get into a session with you and first assess the scope of work and that will be doing, but also that is also discounted. But you already have the licenses. So just having the licenses, we go way and above and beyond just to make sure that you're already utilizing the licenses, because that's what we do as partners. First, it's just making sure that you have the licenses, and then coming in just to you make sure you're utilizing the licenses. So apart from the licenses, there's services, and that's where we come in. I don't know if I've answered your question fully.
Yes, that has been answered. The next question, just a quick one to find out if these presentations will be shared.
Yes.
I'm interested because I recently started working on Microsoft Defender, and I think yeah, we are heading in the right direction. But I would want those documents or those presentations rather just as a refresher as I string along in terms of implementation. Thank you.
Yes, I will be sharing the presentations, and also you'll have access to the team that are presented today in case you have any questions.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, good. Thank you so much for joining, everybody.